So we'll start today with Ping Ho, who will take us through her presentation.
Okay. So the first thing I would like to do is just talk about what are the innate social emotional benefits of the arts. So creative expression is an extension of self. It evokes unconscious and conscious information that reflects what's inside, like a window to the soul. The arts can enhance positive emotions. Social psychologist Barbara Fredrickson has reported that while meditation, for example, is great at reducing negative emotions, the arts are uniquely capable of enhancing positive emotions. Her work has also shown that resilient people use positive emotions to rebound physiologically from negative events. Moreover, active participation in the arts engages a large part of the brain, which can also bring mindful presence and focus by crowding out stressful thinking. With their strong nonverbal component and universal appeal, the arts also enable participation by persons of all cultures and abilities. Furthermore, shared creative experiences deepen possibilities for reflection and dialogue, which brings meaning, self-awareness, empathy, and connection. For example, we trained an entire division of counselors from the Los Angeles Unified School District in how to use our curriculum called Beat the Odds, which is an integrated group drumming and group counseling program. And one school counselor intentionally put kids together who didn't get along ordinarily. She introduced one single small frame drum into the group and had the kids share while they played a little something as they shared. And the group, they grew to enjoy this activity so much that they formed a group identity and they stopped fighting with each other on the playground because you don't beat up a member of your group. So participants in our expressive writing programs will often shed tears when reading aloud what they've written or when hearing what someone else has written. They may report a trauma that they've never shared with anyone before, only to discover that other people in the room have had the same experience. And in the space of an hour, a group of strangers can become each other's closest confidants. So the arts allow difficult issues to be expressed in ways that feel organic and safe, which is very important for people who've experienced trauma or who have a difficult time expressing intense feelings. When we look at well-designed studies of the arts in healing contexts, we see consistent biological evidence of stress reduction, including reductions in the use of sedatives or analgesics, reductions in pain appraisal, and increases in pain tolerance. And we know from the field of psychoneuroimmunology that stress-reducing and support-building practices can improve health and resistance to disease. So in addition, the use of creative expression to facilitate social-emotional well-being can meet needs when access to mental health services is limited, or when financial, legal, or cultural concerns inhibit the use of mental health care. The use of the arts as a therapeutic process also expands possibilities for healthcare because they can be done in groups and can be done in a variety of settings, educational, recreational, and healthcare. And moreover, the arts do not bear the stigma of therapy, and they have virtually no side effects. So we're going to do a little art experiential activity to illustrate some of the key points. Each one of you had a white piece of paper at your chair, so if you can find that now. Here's the instruction, and just remember, there is no wrong way to do this, okay? Do you all have the piece of paper? If not, you can pilfer one from an empty seat. Or you can take a piece of paper that you have on yourself. That's okay. With lines, images, or by manipulating your paper, show stress. With lines, images, or by manipulating your paper, show stress. Okay. Some people are very definitive, and other people really get into it, and they keep going. So if you're done expressing your stress, think for a moment about how your art response reflects the way that you deal with stress. Whoops. So think about how it reflects how you deal with stress, and also look around you. How similar was your expression to others around you, or how different? So I'm going to invite somebody brave from the audience to share Just show us what you did and share how it reflects how you deal with stress. Does anybody want to volunteer? I see a hand back there. Please stand up and use a big voice.
I screwed it up and ripped it up. So I feel like when I'm stressed.
Thank you. Anyone else want to share? Same thing. Okay. Anyone else? A couple more. I see a hand back there. Stand up with big voice.
I didn't rip, but it's ready to throw at someone.
Thank you. And one more, perhaps? Yes, please stand up.
I did nothing because usually when I'm really stressed, I just shut down.
Thank you for sharing that. Did you see the variety and also the similarity that came up? Okay, so I was going to actually, I thought that I was going to pair you up, but that was great. I'm going to actually take you through one other little thing to do. So just follow me. And you're welcome to also make noise with your feet or with your water bottle or whatever you want. Because I'm going to let you improvise for a second. Now do whatever you want. Just keep going. Okay, so now we're going to debrief for a minute. What the heck did we just do? Okay. So there are some key therapeutic elements that we use to enhance the innate benefits of the arts. One of them is process over product. When we focus on process over product without expectations of performance or mastery, we encourage self-expression. The language of non-judgment is really important to this process. So we use I see and I notice to invite reflection. For example, I see a lot of colors in this corner. Tell me about it. Versus that's pretty, which is actually positive, but it's a judgment. And or instead of trying to interpret what we see, like that looks like a chicken hatching from an egg, or what's that? So we use language also that minimizes power struggles, like the simple use of the word and instead of but, which validates the experience of the other person. The language of non-judgment removes the fear of making mistakes and supports a growth mindset, which is defined by Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck. This growth mindset embraces mistakes as part of the learning process, which in turn enables positive risk-taking. So in our evaluation of our program called Beat the Odds, the drumming program, we have noticed that classroom teachers report that shy children start participating more in class. Music teachers report that students are more willing to try solos in front of their peers. And special education teachers report that their students become more willing to participate in their music classes when they were previously disengaged. The next therapeutic element is aesthetic distance. This means that what I have created feels like it's separate from me. It gives us permission to disclose things about ourselves because it's non-threatening, and this is important especially when cultural standards inhibit self-disclosure. So youth in particular tend to write autobiographically. This is an example from a collage-based program where poetry is written from the voice of any object in the collage, even an inanimate one. And the bird is talking in this poem. I'll just read the middle section in the interest of time. I pretend I'm playing with my friends. I feel my mom's broken wing. I touch my mom. I worry that she's not going to make it. I cry if my mom's going to die. I'm a little birdie. The third key therapeutic element is reflection and self-disclosure. So I had forgot to ask you after we did our drumming for you to reflect and notice how you felt after we did those two interactive activities compared to how you felt when you walked in the room. So you might just take a moment to think about that. As creative expression is a metaphor for life, reflection and self-disclosure is essential to processing the experience in order to derive its maximal possible meaning. So Barry Bittman and colleagues evaluated 6 different drumming protocols, varying amounts of drumming and types of drumming. And the only condition that led to neuroendocrine and immune changes at a probability level indicative of stress reduction was the last one. It was drumming facilitated by a music therapist with reflection and self-disclosure. Later, a meta-analytic study by Joanne Frateroli analyzed the outcomes of 146 randomized studies of self-disclosure through writing and found it to be effective in improving psychological health, immune function, reported health, and general functioning. Oops, I'm skipping that one. And finally, synchrony. Synchrony is another key element. When we mirror someone's behavior or we build on another person's ideas, as is done in the theater world, we are sharing a moment of synchrony. Sometimes mirroring is literal, like when we were playing the same rhythm, or we're doing the same movements, or singing the same notes, or even making eye contact. Synchrony is an affirmation of what's been expressed. It's akin to having a voice and being heard. It's a form of empathy. So a fascinating study of synchrony by Kokel and colleagues gave both a subject and an experimenter a little rhythm clicker to play, and then they put the subject into an fMRI machine. When the experimenter played in sync with the subject compared to playing out of sync, they observed increased activity in the caudate, which was the same area of the brain in these subjects that responded to a monetary reward. Also, the subjects demonstrated more helpful behavior afterwards when the experimenter dropped a bunch of pencils. They could literally count the number of pencils that the person helped to pick up. We also experience synchrony when we listen to music or hear poetry that we like. When you connect with a piece of music, a song, or a poem, it's like finding empathy for yourself. The composer or writer gets how you feel. So correspondingly, listening to music or hearing poetry that elicits chills or a measurable physiological response is associated with blood flow patterns in the brain similar to those elicited by drugs of abuse, sex, and chocolate. We are hardwired for synchrony and possibly for empathy through mirror neurons, which help us learn by enabling us to replicate what we see and hear. So if you think about it, if imagined behavior registers in the brain as if it's real, then we can see how the arts can facilitate the learning of new behavior, not only through enactment, but also through observation and the use of imagination in creative expression. So what are creative arts therapists? They are mental health professionals who receive dual training in the arts. They emphasize process over product and use their art forms to achieve social, emotional, physical, and cognitive goals. These therapies, the creative arts therapies, emerged as professional disciplines and academic disciplines in the 20th century. They're well suited to addressing a broad array of problems that are difficult to identify and/or treat, such as trauma. I am deliberately overwhelming you with examples of populations and disorders for which the creative arts therapies can be effective. In 2013, the Journal of the American Medical Association Internal Medicine published an analysis of 27 rigorous studies involving a total of 1,576 cancer patients that were randomly assigned to a creative arts therapy or control condition. And the creative arts therapies included art, dance, music, and writing. The study concluded that creative arts therapies significantly reduced anxiety, depression, and pain, and significantly increased quality of life. At UCLArts and Healing, we offer a sustainable strategy for meeting the overwhelming needs of under-resourced communities. We offer professional development training in some supportive practices that are used by creative arts therapists without crossing the boundary of therapy. And we define therapy as identifying and treating disorders. We work more preventively. A key to our sustainable strategy is we offer scripted curriculum materials that anyone can use. And we also offer a social emotional arts certificate program where we train people to design and deliver their own effective programs in using the arts therapeutically. So an example of a program that we've developed recently is our medical social emotional arts program that supports the well-being of hospital patients and care providers through art, movement, music, and writing integrated with mental health practices. They're intended to help create rapport and connection, evoke positive emotions and resilience, manage stress, pain in the environment, facilitate both verbal and nonverbal communication. It's also aimed at helping strengthen a patient's sense of being a creative person instead of someone who is ill, and it helps with managing grief and loss. The curriculum was designed by a team of creative arts therapists and informed by an array of UCLA departments, including Alzheimer's dementia, child psychiatry, integrative oncology, nursing education, and spiritual care. We wanted to discern and address both patient and staff needs. Our medical student trainees, who are actually shown in this picture here, have been successfully delivering these activities with patients with neurological disorders at UCLA Medical Center. The arts activities are scripted for easy facilitation. They're designed in modules to accommodate short or longer periods of time with patients. They're designed on the assumption that there are no materials or no instruments available in a hospital room. They include instructions for adaptation to different age groups, disabilities, and families, and they include guidelines on how to continue the activities on one's own. As a further example of how our approach to the arts can meet broad public health needs, we're also developing a program of integrative rhythm and movement for older adults with memory or mobility issues. And on the other end of the life spectrum, we are also developing programs for parents of infants, pre-kindergarten age, and elementary age children. These practices are capable of alleviating trauma, preventing bullying, bridging diversity, reducing stress, giving voice to special needs, and more. Neuroscience has a real opportunity here to make a difference. The world of the arts and healing is looking to the world of neuroscience to validate the amazing ways in which the arts can be used to address intractable problems. I recently heard a brain scientist state that after a couple years of measuring outcomes of a music education program, that she had yet to find any changes in social emotional outcomes or indicators, rather than measuring the byproducts of an existing arts program, which may or may not be strong enough to lead to a significant social emotional or other outcome of interest. It's best to study a program that has been specifically designed to achieve these outcomes. When we did this with our Beat the Odds program of group drumming integrated with group counseling activities, here's what we found. Significant reductions in a broad spectrum of behavior problems in 5th grade students. This finding has potentially tremendous public health value given the broad number of ways in which children express their stress. And we have preliminarily found in a subsequent study that is yet to be published that positive behavior, and this was a study with special education students, positive behavior also increases significantly, and that these benefits endure over a period of 2 months. So for more inspiration, we're sponsoring an inaugural conference in creativity in the arts and healing in Los Angeles in 2017, which will offer leading-edge experiential training opportunities in multiple art forms. We invite you all to participate. I have brochures outside with information along with little slips if you want to be notified, which you can just leave on the table. So I'm going to end this just for fun. This is an example of how we facilitate insight through the use of the arts as a metaphor for life. So we were teaching communication in this activity where people were sitting back to back. They had the same art materials, and one person was to create something and the other person was to replicate it, but they couldn't look at each other. So this required complete communication. So you can see that this team did pretty well, and this team not so well. And now I need to tell you that this is a husband-wife team. Need I say more? Okay. So I'll leave you with 2 quotes that say it all. I have no idea what the timer is going up instead of down. Oh, it's stop and I've run over. I'm so sorry. Okay. Okay, so these are the two quotes I'll leave you with, and thank you so much.